Jonathan. Last year, as Jonathan said, you did approve a no objection letter based on the draft of the bill that was in our hands at that point. And attached to that bill is also the legal description that covers the 24,000 acres. During the course of this year leading up to what we're talking about today, we went back and reviewed in detail that legal description and found that there were a couple errors in that legal description that needed cleaning up, as well as a couple of pieces of property that we think in the long term really should be included in this overlay that the stewardship district can help maintain those properties. And so that's what page 15 starts to show you, is that one, along the riverfront in the blue on the screen, you'll see that there are some marshlands that Rayonier owns that were not included for whatever reason when the original ENCPA legal description was prepared. And we don't want to kind of landlock these parcels and have it not be under the stewardship of the district in the future. And so we are proposing that it be included. These are by current land use, either conservation or ag use, which in this case is silviculture on the property. There is no intent on our part that those would be developed or that any entitlements would come along with including those lands. They are truly wetland and marshlands that don't have the development potential with them. The next thing that we found was that Crandall Road had not been originally included in the ENCPA legal description, and I'm sure looking back in hindsight, it was because it is perceived to be a public road, which is how it acts and how it's treated and how we intend for it to always be. But in the title work, we did discover that it is still technically today owned by Rayonier, even though we all treat it as a public road and that's intended for the future. So we believe, again, like the marshlands, that the stewardship district provides a good vehicle for the future maintenance of that road to relieve the county in the future of that. The other thing that has changed since last year is we are excluding the Wildlife Elementary School because it is now owned by the Nassau County School District, as well as a portion of the access road that leads to it. The other reason it's excluded and the roads leading to it in terms of what they own is that those are ultimately county roads, a part of the mobility network, and any kind of government-owned property is not subject to a stewardship district assessments. So those are excluded. I'm sure it was probably assumed last year. Now it is definitely out of the legal description as we have been reviewing with staff. And I will tell you, much like the bill itself, we have had the opportunity to work with Mike and Taco and Doug to discuss what is the best kind of response to this request for these lands to be included. And I don't want to speak for them. If they want to speak up, they are welcome to, but our understanding is they would like to see it included in the stewardship district overlay for this. So in kind of summary, one of the other things that I realized as we went through this, we didn't call out in kind of fact or fiction, but all of the decisions, all the future board meetings of the stewardship district will be in the public domain. It will operate in the sunshine, subject to sunshine laws, like all of the community development districts in the state and all the stewardship districts. Public records will be kept so anybody can go back and review them. And it also means that as the stewardship district goes out and it constructs infrastructure, whether it be parks, trails, or roads, they do it in the same kind of public budgeting and awarding awarding of bids as if the county was doing it. But to be clear, the county won't be building, these mobility roads. They won't be building these streets. They will all be done through the private development company or the stewardship district. All of the infrastructure that is under the management and ownership of the stewardship district must be public according to the Act. There is not ability for it to be privatized and limit access to those types of assets. We believe that the stewardship district is fiscally responsible. We think it is environmentally beneficial, and we think it is the most efficient way to go about the governance of that property in collaboration with the county in perpetuity for these holdings. It does provide the funding capability for not only the initial construction of those improvements, but also, more importantly, the long-term maintenance of those. And we absolutely believe that it is essential to providing an oversight of that 12,000 plus acre conservation habitat network that, frankly, I think a lot of other counties and developments across the state will be looking to as a precedent for what to do in their regions. We think that this is absolutely consistent with the public-private kind of approach that the county has taken with our organization from the outset, that it is the type of kind of open and transparent organization that will serve us a lot better than if we had a whole lot of individual private property owners associations where things are privatized within those and don't have to be disclosed publicly other than to those owners who live within those associations. So our request is that next Monday, when this is on your agenda, that you will do as you did last year, which is approve the form of no objection letter that we've worked on with you previously. And lastly, wanted to let you know that even after that occurs, there's still the additional kind of public input at the local delegation meeting if others think of questions and concerns between now and then. And then, of course, through the whole time that it is in front of the houses of the state, there's opportunity for input. So this doesn't, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a critical step in this for us to move forward. What makes the timing of it so important for us this year is that, unlike last year when you considered it, we will have homes starting construction during the first couple of months of 2017, and some of the first residents will be moving into the first village, in this case Wildlife. And right now, this entire 24,000 acres is under the ownership of a single entity. As you start getting additional property owners within those holdings, they would all have to consent or either be excluded, from it. And we don't want to be in that position. We want to have this all complete before there's any third-party ownership within the ENCPA. So with that, I basically thank you for your time this afternoon, and Jonathan and I are available to answer any questions that you might have, and we'll do it kind of a tag team approach.
Mr. Adams, Mr. Johnson, thank you for the presentation. Before you leave the podium, I'll open up to the board. Any board discussion or questions for Mr. Adams or Mr. Johnson at the moment? Mr. Spicer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for coming forward with this presentation. I always like to have a presentation open to the public as well in such a, so thank you for coming forward, and thank you very much for your staff. I see Mr. Bell out there. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. Today, how many people live in the ENCPA area, the area you plan on doing a stewardship?
Within that boundary on the land we're talking about, there are no residents in there yet.
And to our group, does anything that they have planned, is it outside of our comprehensive plan today?
No, sir. was discussed in the presentation, our comprehensive plan, including Objective FL 13, which is the NCPA remain in effect, as well as our land development code.
Thank you, Tucker.
Tucker, just a quick question, and I know Mr. Adams and Mr. Johnson gave some examples of other communities like this, not only throughout the state of Florida, but also in Nassau County. So I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's safe to say this is not a new concept for Nassau County or the state of Florida, correct?
No, sir. I think it's important that this answers the question of how. We have these great policies. We have a comprehensive plan that lays out walkable communities and environmentally sensitive development patterns. But that how has always kind of been the outstanding question. Well, this creates the opportunity, the vehicle, for us to create the quality of place that ultimately leads to the quality of life that we all expect for each other and the citizens of Nassau County. And so, yes, sir, this is not new, and it's a vehicle to accomplish what we've already established in our sector plan legislation and our comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman, you have any comments?
No, sir.
Mr. Selby?
Mr. Chairman.
Finance? Mr. Taylor?
If I can make just a real quick comment. I've been a commissioner for all of 13 and a half hours. So I greatly appreciate you guys coming and giving this presentation. I have the past several months met with county staff who they tried to fill me in and get me caught up to speed. I didn't have the luxury of going through this, like my fellow commissioners over the past year or so or longer. But as the public side of this public-private partnership, it's important that we have the input, to ensure that this isn't a private community. The public's still going to have access to the amenities, the parks, recreation, dining, and so forth. So thank you again for your presentation. I appreciate it.
And if I could just punctuate that a little bit, we want you to know that the dialogue is there and beyond, just today. So to the extent any of you or members of the public have questions, we have an open door policy and be happy to continue to provide support as any of our advisors, like Jonathan, if you have some questions beyond today.
Thank you. Before I open up to the public, I really want to emphasize the timeline you spelled out to assure the public that this is not, the end of the conversation, so to speak, depending on what the board does on the 28th. So we'll take it under consideration on November 28th at our 6 p.m. meeting. And then December the 1st, we have the local delegation meeting with Senator Bean and Representative Byrd to be able to voice your concerns or comments at that time. And in February 2017, the bill will be filed with the state legislature. And then in March through May of 2017, the consideration by the legislature. And then May 2017, consideration by the government. So there is some time. I don't want the public to walk away today feeling that there is no time left. So there is time. So I just want to emphasize that timeline. So with that, I will thank you very much again for the good presentation. I will open it back up for public comments. Back to Mr. West White.